Hello. Political progressives in the United States suffered a massive defeat with the selection of Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee for president. Even if one buys the idea that Hillary is qualified and well suited to be president, which I certainly do not, if she were to be elected to the presidency, she would be probably the most unpopular person in American history to be re-elected to that post, because I've seen polling data indicating that as many as 60% of the general electorate do not support her. They do not like her. They do not think she is honest. She has serious credibility issues. And what does this mean for the national election? It means that Republicans will surely keep control of the U.S. House. This means that her administration will be a lot like Obama's administration since January of 2011. No significant legislation that will have a direct impact on the lives of most people has any chance at all of passing under a Hillary Clinton administration, because Republicans, with their Tea Party faction, will continue to dominate the House. That means virtually no chance for gun control. It means virtually no chance for a higher minimum wage. It means virtually no chance that the tax increases on the wealthy would ever be enacted as she has proposed. It means 4 years of gridlock, and the setup for 2020, if that happens, is that the Democratic Party would re-nominate her, because parties don't dump incumbent presidents. That would be an admission of failure. So what you'd have in 2020 more than likely would be Hillary running against a Republican, and again the progressive movement is just sort of sunk, and nothing happens of a progressive nature for many years thereafter. So where does that leave progressives? It leaves state and local governments as the most likely avenues to achieve progressive reform. There have been a lot of successful efforts in recent years to increase the minimum wage in local areas all across the United States. The most famous example is Seattle, where it's the city of Seattle raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And there were all kinds of negative comments from progressive quarters about all the damage that was going to do to business in Seattle, and it simply didn't happen. Seattle has a booming economy. Restaurants have been opening all over the place, and Seattle has done very, very well, economically speaking. I'll never forget, I was reading the comment section of a media website, and this one person stated that since the minimum wage increase in Seattle, countless businesses had closed. And this person made this statement at a time when new restaurants were opening all over the city in Seattle. Where did this person get their information? Could you get it in 3 guesses? You probably could, because the data shows that the minimum wage increase has worked very well in Seattle, and it appears to have worked in many other places as well. So there have been efforts, successful efforts, in some states and in some cities to increase the minimum wage. There have been efforts in other places to block local areas, cities, from increasing the minimum wage. One situation that comes to mind is Birmingham, Alabama. The city of Birmingham was in the process of raising that city's minimum wage to $10 an hour. The Alabama legislature intervened in record time. It's one of the swiftest passed pieces of legislation to ever go through that state's legislature. They passed a law that was signed by the governor in like 2 or 3 days' time that prohibited local areas from increasing the minimum wage. So therefore, minimum wage workers in the state of Alabama are screwed, blued, and tattooed. And the same is true in other very conservative areas. However, there have been successful efforts in various areas to increase the minimum wage. Those efforts have been very successful. So we can expect that to continue. It's a realistic thing that the minimum wage may increase in various states and increase in local areas. That's an effort where progressives can continue to fight. Another area is paid parental leave, paid maternity leave. The United States does not guarantee paid maternal leave at this time. There is no national law that guarantees maternal leave. In fact, our leave policies are among the worst anywhere in the developed world. There are 3 states who do mandate paid leave. They are California, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and in each case the amount of leave that is required is only 6 weeks, so it's not nearly enough. but it is better than the nothing that is available in most states and the nothing that is available at the national level. It's going to move into one more state in 2018. The state of New York is going to impose mandatory 6 weeks, I believe. I'm not sure, it may be 6 weeks, but they're going to provide guaranteed maternal leave in the state of New York also. So even though things are not happening at the national level, there are possibilities at the local and state level. What about health care? In November of 2016, Colorado voters will consider Colorado Cares, which would be the first universal health care program for a state in the United States. Massachusetts tried and got closer than any other state, but not quite universal. Hawaii requires most employers to provide health insurance, and so coverage is, in the general direction of universal coverage, is much higher in Hawaii than most other states. But if Colorado Cares passes the referendum in November of 2016, that will be the first universal health care program for a state in the United States. And if the program succeeds in Colorado, it's bound to move toward other states. So there are possibilities for getting progressive things done at the local and state level. Now, sadly, that leaves a lot of states out. If you live in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, some of those states, and you're looking for a better life, my suggestion is get the hell out, because you're not going to see progressive reform in those states, because even though they're some of the poorest states in America, they're going to continue to elect extremely conservative legislators and extremely conservative governors. So we're going to become very much a nation divided, in that some states and some areas will be far more progressive and other states won't be progressive at all. But that's where we are right now, because the national election has been lost. The place where progressives need to fight the battles now are in local governments and state governments. And even that won't be easy, because very few politicians in the United States actually give a damn about their city, their county, their state, or the country as a whole. They don't care about the general population. They care about people who help them buy elections. I think in many ways this system we have in the United States is one of the worst systems in the world, because we get some of the trashiest people in the world in positions of power and influence, and that's a very bad thing. And unfortunately, the election has been bought by either one side or the other. The national election has in 2016. If you want to see progressive change, the place to focus those efforts now is in local areas, local states, because there are local areas that are more progressive, there are states that are more progressive, and progress can be made there. And those are the areas where it's most likely state and local efforts will likely be more successful as far as enacting progressive reform in the future, because the federal government is going to be gridlocked, it looks like, for a very long time to come. So what the future holds for progressive is to continue efforts at the state and local level to hopefully improve quality of life for people in various sections of the country. It's a shame that progressive reform can't happen all over the United States, but that's the way it is. And so that's where things stand for progressivism in the United States in September 2016. Thank you for your time.